Everybody, Raven fan, Oriole fans, thank you for joining us this week here on the Ravery Sports Podcast, the Baltimore Sports Podcast for fans like me. Thank you for joining us another week. So we appreciate it. Thank you very much, all of you out there, no matter where you're watching from. If you're watching in Baltimore, Frederick County, Virginia, parts of DC, some of you Raven fans, Oriole fans, uh, all over the country, all over the world. So thank you very much for joining us today. Let's get the business out of the way first. Let's talk about this. Genesis Notary Services live stream is on 2/19/24, President's Day. So, I mean, a lot of you, especially you government workers and everything like that, might be off that day. Check us out at 12 o'clock. Where I'll be talking a bit about my notary business. This is more locked in for you living in the Shenandoah Valley. For those of you that live in the Shenandoah Valley area, and if you don't know what it is, that's Frederick County, Maryland, Clark County, Frederick County, Virginia, Frederick County, Virginia, Clark County, Virginia, Northern Virginia, Berryville, Virginia, Winchester, Virginia, West Virginia. If you live in Inwood or anything like that, definitely check us out. Our live stream, we're going to be talking about the notary business, wedding efficient. If you need house inspection, if you need general notary work, we're here, definitely here. We'll be talking more about that. 2/19/12 o'clock as well. And also to Super Bowl Sunday is the day that we're going to go ahead and Sunday, we're going to go ahead and get down with the Super Bowl. So we will be streaming that day. That day we'll be talking about the Super Bowl, obviously talking about a little bit of the Ravens off season. We're going to have a little giveaway for you. Okay, if you go ahead and you check us out as well. We're going to be talking also a little bit about ravorisports.company.site. We are going to be making some changes to the website, so definitely check that out. All of our merchandise, Ravens and Orioles stuff on the website, and Terps as well. So definitely check that out here as well. That is at the bottom of the screen. One last thing. Thank you for all of you that joined me on my Harris Legal Shield live stream last Sunday. So thank you very much for checking that out with you. We had people from Oklahoma on the stream with me. We had people from Virginia. We had people from Alabama. We had a couple people on there. So thank you very much for checking us out on Harris Legal Shield as well. If you do have needs, if that's at the bottom of the screen as well, C Charles Harris at wearelegalshield.com. All right, let's get to the business of football. We are now in off season, so thank you especially for joining us now, because the Ravens and the Orioles are now in off season mode, and we got a lot to talk about with the Ravens though. So even though when the off season is just starting, there's a lot happening. Okay, so we're at the beginning, so now they're building for the 2024 team. First step is we're gonna look at free agents for the Ravens. A lot has happened. A lot is out there for the Ravens. This was considered, even though you get to the AFC Championship and get a home game, you did lose, and there's a lot of fans now that are a little disappointed, to say the least, including myself. We'll get to the press conference because that was something else. The press conference. So we'll go ahead and go over that for you as well. Okay, so free agents. Okay, so last year was a little different in terms of free agents for the Baltimore Ravens. So you have free agents. Usually in an off season, you have you have three or four. In a lot of off seasons, you have about 3 or 4 big free agents. You have like 3 or 4 starters that are free agents, guys like this. So this year, you had a very unusual one because you had the main guy. You had your starting quarterback. That was a free agent, hadn't had a contract. Very unusual. This year, you have Lamar signed up. You have a lot of your key guys signed up. But you have, I think the number is 23 free agents, unrestricted. That's insane. The reason also, I think, part of this for the high number is the fact that you have so many guys last year who contributed so well. So you have a lot of guys who are on 1-year deals who are very desirable free agents. So not as many restricted free agents, but a lot, an insanely high number of unrestricted free agents. So we'll go over who's a free agent. I think we got everybody. Went over it several times. Let's see who's a free agent on the team for the Ravens. So let's go over it. You see it on the screen there. 2024 free agents. Adarius Washington. Adarius was injured most of the year. I don't think he played at all. He had a very good training camp. Was expected to have a big role. For that reason, you can almost guarantee. I don't think another team is going to swoop in and make a big offer for Adarius. So I definitely think he'll be back. Dalvin Cook. I don't know why they bothered signing him. He didn't play nearly as much as he thought. Now, he did come in super late, so it's kind of hard to do what he did. I'm not even blaming him. But it was, I don't even know, they didn't really play him with the run game and everything like that. Certainly there's going to be another team to really look at Dalvin Cook. Laquan Treadwell, definitely a guy. I think he could be back with the Ravens. I think he'll be back similar to this year. See how camp goes, see how back, bring him in the middle of the year, bring him in when they need help. That's how that goes. Kyle Van Oy, very interesting. 34 years old. That's how old he's going to be. He was really good this year. He was outstanding. He had about, I think it was 9 sacks. He was very good. But again, 34 years old. How much does he have left in the tank? How could you count on another season like him? Very fascinating to see what's the market going to be like for him. I would think there's a couple teams out there. I don't think they're just going to ignore him. Ravens going to be out there. Here's also a difference with this free agent period. Mike McDonald hired head coach in Seattle. Not as big of a thing, but Anthony Weaver hired as head coach hired as defensive coordinator, with Miami, and Denard Wilson, former Ravens coach, hired as DC. Matter of fact, let's get the graphic up for that. Hired as defensive coordinator with Tennessee. Now, why am I even bringing that up? All of these defensive free agents, they may have a landing spot with some of these other teams. More Mike McDonald because he has the head coach job and he has final say. So we will see about that. Deshaun Phillips, I think he's more likely to come back. He is the special teams guy. I think the Ravens have value in him. Trayvon Mullen, I think we'll see him again. I don't know how much interest around the league have the Ravens. He seems to be not in the Brent Urban category as a Brent Urban guy, but he's a guy that's been around for a while. I mean, definitely knows the system. Okay, next list here. There's several of these. J.K. Dobbins. I don't think he's coming back. I doubt it seriously. He's unhappy with his role. I think they may be in a position where they don't have a choice, where he doesn't have a choice but to come back and see if he comes back. I think there's a small chance, if for no money, like if he takes like $3 or $4 million, $4.5 million or something like that, kind of like a similar contract to Justice Hill, I think we see him, but I think that's the only way. Tyler Huntley, I don't think he comes back either. I think, again, I think it depends. I'm pretty sure there's another team interested in him. That I'm pretty sure of. I don't think he's going to be more than a backup, but I do think the Ravens are going to go for a cheaper option than Tyler Huntley. I think they're maybe looking for a bit of an upgrade. I think they're going to take maybe going to draft later round and look for somebody, possibly. But I don't think Tyler Huntley comes back. I think it's a bigger chance than J.K., though, that he comes back. Malik Harrison's another one, unlikely as well. Malik's pretty good on special teams, though. I could see that if he wants to carve out his career on special teams, pretty good on special teams, but I think he's going to be a backup. I think they can fill that role pretty easily, but it's possible. It's not impossible. I wouldn't say the door is completely shut there. Gus Edwards. I'm going to hope here that he stays. Where would we have been without Gus Edwards? I think almost for his sake, I kind of hope he leaves the way he manages, the way we manage the run game and the running backs. I think he could definitely do more. I don't know how much more money he's going to get. I don't think he's going to get a bigger role somewhere else. I don't know. We could see. Um, Here's another team I think would be interesting here, and I was remiss to mention it. Now, here's a guy who knows him on the offensive side, Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh has come out and said he's looking for running backs. So definitely, certainly all the Ravens players he knows. So that's very fascinating to see. I'm more leaning he stays. I think he will in some role. Rock Ya-Sin, um, kind of got outplayed. He wasn't terrible. He was about as expected. I think the other guys kind of outplayed him, but he wasn't bad when he did play. Um, I think he's a. I almost hate to use the term just a guy, but I think that's more what he is. Just a solid, average NFL player, not a stud, not a bust, kind of like in the middle, kind of like a decent starter, really good backup. That's kind of what I see with Rocky Sin. Josh Johnson. I do think they bring John Johnson back. I think in some capacity, if he continues to play football and doesn't retire, I absolutely believe he's going to be the backup next season or on the third string. I think he's a cheaper option than Huntley. I think he's certainly shown he can play in spurts. So I do think they're comfortable with that. I think like you could probably sign him for like what $2 million and have a backup. And I think they're pretty comfortable with that. I think they're pretty comfortable with Josh. I think it is a shot. I think they're going to go in the draft and also a Josh Johnson that you want a veteran guy like that. I definitely see him future as a Ravens coach. I think he could definitely be with the organization. So I do think Josh Johnson will be back. Nelson Aguilar. I'm not sure he returns, but kudos to his season he had. I was more impressed with him than I thought I was going to be. Aguilar, I thought, made good catches, not a big volume in terms of catching and yards and all that fun stuff, but he absolutely had a good season. Key catches at key times. Use a hockey term. Barry Melrose used to say key saves at key times. And that's what Aguilar did. Key catches and key situation. He was moving the chains at least once a game. Big catch down the field. Kind of decent enough for me. I thought he was better than I thought. A lot of these free agents, 1 year deal, better than I thought. I think he goes to a different team. I got no idea if he stays in there. I think it's 50-50. He's probably got a better chance than his other receivers on the team. Jadeveon Clowney, I absolutely think he's going to resign. I think he's not going to be a priority because he doesn't like camp. So it'll be a while. He got his bonus. I think they need him. I think they could use a guy like this. I don't think he has to play every down too as well. I think he's a pass rush guy. He can get you some sack. I got to tell you, he used to drive me crazy a little bit because he's not fundamentally sound. And I don't care what anybody says. He's not fundamentally sound, but man, he's just so athletic. He busts through the line despite his deficiencies. So I'd really like to see him sign early. I don't think he will because it's not his MO. But sign early, get some work in, get with some other defensive guys. I think he comes back. I'd be surprised if he didn't, as long as it's not too pricey, which I don't think it will be. Ronald Darby was fantastic this year. I think he was probably, with Marlon Humphrey's injury, I was so worried at the beginning of the season who's going to play next to Marlon Humphrey. Darby was fantastic. Darby, I think, was the second best guy. Arthur Millette underneath him was really good too. Arthur Millette and Darby were excellent at the corner position this year. I thought you couldn't have asked for two guys who kind of were not, kind of honestly afterthoughts, kind of came in after camp. I don't know. I don't know how much of a future they have but I certainly another team's going to be looking at these guys. And like I said, a lot of the cases, a lot of these guys have played their way on another team into a bigger contract. John Simpson. This is kind of thumbs in the middle. I thought he was good at times, and I thought he was not great at other times. He kind of faded, I thought, down the stretch. Not quite as good at the end as he was at the beginning, but he was okay. And this one is definitely, for me, 50-50. If they don't sign him, I won't be mad. If they do sign him, I won't be mad. I got no problem with that. I think if they sign him to like a 3-year, $12 million deal or something like that, I'm fine with that. But if they don't sign him and go younger, I can see that too. So this is about half the way, I think. Devin Duvernay, I don't think he comes back. I think there's I think they're going to go with younger and cheaper. I do think they're going to draw the money line somewhere. I think he definitely picks up with another team because he's outstanding kick returner, punt returner. But he's banged up quite a bit. He misses games every year. I'm not sure he's done enough to stay, get an extension. Brent Urban's going nowhere. He's a John Harbaugh guy. Said it, unless he retires. Daryl Worley, I think, is kind of put in the same category with Trayvon Mullen. You'll see him at some point as well during the season. I don't know if he even breaks camp, but he'll be around if he doesn't like that. I think Daryl Worley is a guy kind of somewhere you'll see that. Odell Beckham Jr. You know what? I was kind of wrong about OBJ. The offensive production wasn't what we hoped for. I think a lot of us watching this can all agree on that. I will say his demeanor was much better than I thought. I was really worried about him and Harbaugh getting along, diva wide receiver, and he was really one of the leaders on the offense, really kind of the big brother there, kind of consoling the younger guys, kind of teaching the younger guys on the team. Had his moments. I don't know if he can stay healthy anymore for a full season. He definitely won't be back at anywhere near the number that he had. No way. But I think again, if he takes a lesser deal, I think like because of all the other things, they'll consider it. I don't think he comes back, but I wouldn't again rule it out. I think he's a fallback option. I don't think OBJ comes back, but I think it's a fallback option. I don't think it's completely off the reservation because I think the mentorship, the leadership, kind of like being the junkyard dog. I saw him a couple games for Zay Flowers, so I don't think it's completely out of the realm. Number 4, Geno Stone, and then we're in the top 5. I should mention that. Top 5, Geno Stone. He's definitely gone, in my opinion. I don't think there's any way you keep him unless you cut Marcus Williams. He was one of the league leaders in interceptions, even though technically speaking, he wasn't even a starter. I think there's too many teams looking for a safety, a starter. This guy's going to start for sure. Kyle Hamilton's here. Marcus Williams is here. I don't think he starts. I think he goes get a big money deal somewhere. I definitely see Seattle and Miami and Tennessee and all these places that have DCs with Ravens, former Ravens running them. Definitely he's going to start in one of those or somewhere else. Don't see Theo coming back. Zeitler, I think, is pretty much gone too. I will say this. He wasn't bad at all last year. I really think he was pretty good. For the first time, he missed a couple games. And he's up there in age. He's like 34 now, it looks like. So I don't think he comes back. I think they kind of rebuffed him for his trying to get an extension. So I don't think he gets an extension. I can see a 1-year deal, but I think probably they're going to move on. Somebody's going to sign Kevin Zeitler, though. That's the thing. I don't think these guys are now we're at the top of the list here. So I don't think it's going to be so easy. There's going to be other offers for this guy. I think there's going to be a lot of teams looking at a Kevin Zeitler. Right guard is a hard spot to fill for a lot of teams. The right side is a hole. So there usually isn't a player as good as Kevin Zeitler, even though he's older. I definitely think he signs with the Ravens. I don't think he's going to take the Ravens are going to probably only offer him like a blue light deal. He's not going to take that. Somebody's going to sign him. Here's another guy who's definitely gone. Patrick Queen. Good for him. Patrick Queen, they didn't think he was good enough to extend the 5th-year option, and he went out ever since that happened. They signed Roquan Smith. He was terrific ever since then. Roquan Smith was good. Patrick Queen, I think, is going to get one of the biggest contracts in the league. Certainly, the way he played, Pro Bowl worthy this year. Shout out to Patrick Queen making the Pro Bowl. Outstanding stuff. No chance, Patrick. I heard a couple. Well, what if we did? Not going to happen. Not going to happen. That they re-signed Patrick Queen. I definitely think they're going to go with a plan with Trenton Simpson starting at inside linebacker as well. They may go in the draft and do something. No change. You got Patrick Queen. This was more ambiguous. Justin Matabuke, the sack leader, 14 sacks that he had. This is going to cost a lot of money. This is very interesting. I don't know if this is a slam dunk either. I don't know. There's a rumor that it's already done. That he was. I kind of said it before. He was walking around 25 billion, 25. He had the Instagram video out. They could franchise him. I could see that. I don't think they want to do that. I think they want to keep the cap room, if at all possible. I'm not 1,000% sure. I would lean more here he stays than he goes. I would think they would want to keep him. That would probably be the only piece on defensive line. And they went ahead and read up Michael Pierce. They still have Travis Jones. They got Braddock Washington extended. I would lean to more to stay, but I do think it is possible this can get too expensive for him. I think that's possible. There's going to be a lot of teams wanting Justin Matabuke. And I do think a defensive tackle, I mean, this could get into $22, $23 million a year. I think the Ravens may bow out of that if this gets too expensive. But I think otherwise they're going to keep him and try and keep him. So there you go. There is the Ravens free agency preview there. There's a lot of work to do. You're losing a lot of guys. Interesting, though. So many guys didn't really play last year. So keep that in mind. Trenton Simpson, we mentioned that with Patrick Queen, may be ready to step up. Daniel Falele may be ready to step up. You didn't have Tyus Bowser at all. You hardly had David Ajabo last year. Adafi Owe, where's his status? You'll see. So we kind of forgot about that. They brought in a lot of these vet one-year guys. They don't have contracts, but they play extremely well. So it'll be interesting to see because a lot of these guys are going to leave. They're going to leave. They're for sure going to lose about half of these guys. So interesting to see who stays, who goes, and what they decide to do. I think it'll be very, very interesting to see what they think of some of these players. See who stays and who goes, since you brought it up. Old Samoa Joe. And for those of you who watched Comic View back in the day. The Ravens end-of-year press conference. I watched it as far as the presser. I put it on our Facebook page. If you want to go ahead and check that out, definitely go to facebook.com/ravorisports and check out our end-of-year press conference. Not our, but the Ravens end-of-year press conference. A couple things. I almost feel like I should talk about Zach Orr first. I'm gonna talk about that. I'm gonna talk about the end of year presser. Zach Orr definitely was named defensive coordinator to the Ravens. Anthony Weaver goes to Miami. We talked about that already. So Zach Orr goes out there. That was very strange with Zach Orr, his press conference. Zach Orr was I mean, not on him at all. He was out there by himself. Very strange. Now, they usually don't do that. It is a bit of a trend, though, that they kind of did the same thing last year in with the Commanders when they interviewed Eric Bieniemy. They kind of had him do a press conference by himself. So I thought that was unusual. So maybe that's a trend that the league is going. Coordinator kind of be out there by himself. Thought that was fascinating. It was fascinating. Now to circle back to the end of year press conference. That press conference, John Harbaugh took a ton of heat. Oh wow! I've never seen it before, like where he took that much heat at a presser. When it was very distinct. When they were asking Eric DeCosta questions, it was kind of like who we going to sign and what's the cap space and blah, blah, blah. And then when they asked John Harbaugh questions, well, what happened in the championship game, John? What happened? What happened? What happened? Where was the run game, John? Why didn't we? I mean, it was very pointed. There's a lot of heat on the coach. There is. I don't think there's any way they can. And look, whenever you lose a game, of course, people are going to be mad. There's going to be fans mad, et cetera, blah, blah. That's part of the deal. Okay, so all coaches deal with that. He's kind of, because he's had so much success and won a Super Bowl, he's kind of, in some ways, kind of escaped criticism from a lot of media as well. He's kind of gotten away with some things, I guess. But I would say this. I don't know if how they feel about him in Owings Mills. I could say this, what I've seen. Fans, and a bigger thing, the media, putting the heat on this guy. I think that's a real thing. That's not. Here's things that get coaches fired. Obviously, the obvious one is losing games. If you lose all the time, then you're not gonna stay coaching because you can't win. You're supposed to win. The other two things are a huge fan backlash and a huge media backlash. The other thing is, and I'll mention this first. The other thing is also if you are internal stuff. So like him and Eric DaCosta can't stand beside each other, or him and Ozzie Newsome, or him and Steve Bisciotti can't get along. That'll get a coach out the door as well. So I don't think that's it, but that's a factor as well. But the fans and the media are really putting the heat on him. A lot of the fans. This is stronger than I've ever seen it for him as far as that goes. Jerry Roethlisberger was almost brought in as a game management coordinator. A lot of people took that as a shot. John Harbaugh as the coach. More what I thought of that is I don't think they're going to hire that position. I could be wrong, but I think what they wanted was Jerry Roethlisberger back because he's the GOAT. I mean, he's the greatest special teams coach of all time. So I think the fact that they're not getting rid of Chris Horton, okay, we get Jerry Roethlisberger in a different role, we're happy to have him. It wound up not working out, but I don't think it was shoved down his throat or anything like that. But that was very pointed. This is a tipping point. This is a big year for the coach of the Ravens. He's losing a lot of free agents. He's lost a lot of his defensive staff. His brother now is coming back in the league as well in his conference. You know, he's Jim Harbaugh is now going to be coaching Justin Herbert. So interesting to see. Definitely more heat on the coach than I've ever seen here as well. That was true in the presser. They were really going at Coach John Harbaugh. All right, switching to basketball. Couple quick topics here. Terps, start buying your NIT tickets. Terps are not consistent enough. I mean, I've been watching the games this year. The Big Ten's really good. I think they kind of blend in. I think they're a little better record, but not much. They lost to Rutgers the other night. They lost to Michigan State. They're just not good enough. They kind of blend in, that for lack of a better word. They go as far as Jameer Young goes, minute to minute, out. If he can kind of bail them out, have a blowout night or whatever, that's good. Julian Reese and Dante Scott kind of don't play well enough to me when they kind of play when Jameer Young goes. They don't really do it without him, which really doesn't help some nights. Defensively, they're pretty good, but then their offense kind of goes. I think they're better defensively than they are offensively, but again, kind of the same inconsistency. Not great defensively every night. So they definitely have some issues. You lost to Rutgers the other night. So yeah, I'm thinking less and less this team gets in the tournament. Little bit I don't. Maybe there'll be some heat on Kevin. I mean, I can tell you this: Maryland basketball, they don't like going to the NIT. They don't like going to the NIT. So not making the tournament, they still might. We'll see. but it's going to take a run that I'm not seeing. You still got to play Purdue. You still got to play Wisconsin. You still got a lot of work to do here. We're going to talk more about that one next week. But Terps, inconsistent. Definitely the big takeaway with that. I checked this out. Maryland and Iowa on Saturday night. So the Terps playing the Lady Terps playing the Iowa Hawkeyes. I wanted to check out Caitlin Clark. I hadn't really watched the whole game yet with Caitlin Clark. That girl is a killer. My goodness. 36 points. I think it was 13 rebounds and assists. I mean, she was destroying a good Maryland team. You don't put 3 people on her, you can forget it. He says, this is easy number 1 pick in the NBA draft. She's definitely going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. I don't know if they win the title. I definitely think they have the tools like that, but she's phenomenal. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, she drilled a 3, handled the ball, and then when you put 3 people on her, she just dishes it out to a wide open person. She has great vision on the court. So I was very impressed with Caitlin Clark. What she was able to do. Very impressed. Very impressed. So I thought it was very impressive what she was able to do in that game. So we'll see. Lady Terps, they're going to the tournament. They didn't win that game. I don't think they'll be a high seed, but they'll probably get it from what I can see. They're pretty good. They didn't do much with Caitlin Clark, but that doesn't say much in that game. But they're pretty good. Sports media. This was announced earlier today. Fox, ESPN, Warner Brothers owns TNT. Fox, it's more obvious. They own FS1, FS2, etc. They are going to go ahead and do a streaming service approximately fall, from what we hear. This was a weird announcement. You figure something like this, they would be maybe this leaked out, but something like this, you would. This was underwhelming the way it came out. Kind of media outlets kind of got a hold of it, but we don't have a name, or we don't have a price point. We don't have this. Well, we're gonna get together and start. So, it was kind of weird the way this was. I want to be more excited about this, I guess. It's kind of how I feel about it. I mean, on the surface, it sounds fantastic, right? You get FS1 games, you get the Fox games, you get ESPN, ABC games, you get whatever. But all it says is the starting a new streaming service. So it's good that they're collaborating. And Warner Brothers has TNT, which is the NBA, which is I think they are the best at the NBA. So we don't know enough yet. I mean, but I did want to mention it because it did come out today. It was weird. You would think that it leaked out somehow. That this was weird how this leaked out. So I thought that was strange how that went. You would think like this would be a bigger deal. I would say this. I did post this. This is a reaction, in my opinion, to the WWE deal on Netflix. Absolutely is. They see Netflix getting in this, and they're closing ranks here because Netflix has a bigger market cap. They have more money. They have all they just haven't been, and it's very possible that these leagues these leagues are definitely going to look at Netflix. So they can get a WWE bid. I absolutely think they can get an NFL, etc., and all that. So definitely interested to see what happens here. Interested to see what happens. This could be the end of cable television. As quiet as kept. That's the other part of this. I could say this, without sports, I'm not saying that just because I'm a sports fan or a sports commentator, like you got nothing on cable. Cable is terrible. I mean, they don't even try anymore, man. I mean, it's none of the old movies. I don't watch a lot of cable anymore, but cable is just terrible. Used to have good shows like The Sopranos and The Wire and all that type. Nothing now. Just it's all on stream. So we'll see more on that. The streaming deal. All right. So we've been doing our series here, some of the top 10 shortstops in the MLB in 2024. So we've done a lot of positions. Last week we done third base. We did rather third base. This week we're going to look at shortstop. So who are some of the best shortstops in the MLB in 2024? These lists again are going into 2024 season. So again, these guys were projecting who's going to be in the top 10 going forward playing next year. We're looking also what they did last year, what they're going to do this year. So this is more what they're going to do. But we do look at what they've already done. Age is a factor maybe for guys going on the downhill. We predict that a little bit. Guys going uphill, we predict that a little bit. To a new team, better team, worse team, things like that. So projecting what a guy is going to do 2024. Who do I think is going to be the top 10 in 2024 as far as shortstops? Okay, so this guy made the top 10 just barely. Carlos Correa had an interesting couple years here. He had a 13-year deal in San Francisco. Then that kind of got voided because of an injury. Then he goes to New York, supposed to have a deal. That kind of got voided out kind of for the same reason. So he winds up with the Twins, kind of where he was. I could tell you, I could only imagine New York being this mad with the season he had. Really slow start for Correa. I do think he will pick it up, but it is concerning. Kind of a good second half. But I kind of still have him in the top 10. He could be higher than that, but not great from Correa last year. Need to see a little bit more. This is a projection name you may not know. The Nats, C.J. Abrams. The Nets have a few young good players. This is one of them. I think this guy could really get like 30 steals. Outstanding defense. C.J. Abrams, I like his defense. Good quick bat. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think like had he be on a better team, I think you might see more production out of him. But I think his production is coming up. I think this guy is ascending. Very good shortstop. C.J. Abrams, I think lots of potential here with him. Here's another guy, J.P. Crawford, and a good Mariners team. This guy can really hit. I think this is more offense here. I think this guy can wind up getting 20 home runs, 80 RBIs for you. I think he's in the prime of his career. This is the best we're going to see of J.P. Crawford. Definitely can get into the top 5 on a good team. I really think he can hit for power. I really do. I really think, like, at the shortstop position, you don't have a lot of that. This is a guy definitely you could put in the top 10 because he hits for power. Now, very good list here. Darby Swanson might be the best player on the Cubs. He's funny. All those years he was in Atlanta, he was kind of a defensive guy. Had a good last year, and now he's kind of considered an offensive shortstop. Darby's really good. I think like too, can he become a leader of a playoff team? That's kind of the only question with him. Can he be the best player on a team that actually goes to the World Series and wins it? I don't know. He's got to step it up just a hair more for that. But otherwise, he's very, very good. Top 10, definitely going to get you 20-plus home runs here. Xander Bogaerts. Bogaerts was pretty good last year at the end. Had a terrible start. Look, Padres signed him for a lot of money. I can tell you, too, Red Sox fans were crying all year long that this guy was gone. They were really sad. He was one of their guys they brought up through their system and one of the leaders. Bogaerts, I think, is going to be good all year long. I don't think he necessarily was so enthusiastic, frankly, by going to San Diego except for that huge contract. So we will see. He's got to bounce back for them if the Padres are really going to get anywhere. They've lost some pitching. The Dodgers made some moves, so they're really hoping that Bogaerts can get them back up there. Bo Bichette, just got to get him on the field. That's the only reason why he's not higher. He's missed some games a couple years here. So as good as he is, he's kind of missed some games. I don't want to put him in the Trout category where he misses games. He's on the field. He's terrific. Hits for power, hits for average, hits feel good defensively. He 5'2" all the way around. Just gotta like be more consistent, getting him on the field. Misses some games with injuries, and I think that's a large part of the problem. I think like the Blue Jays have that same problem. You get more Bo Bichette, you can win some more games. Bobby Witt Jr. Uh, Bobby Witt's terrific. He's got this is what the Royals are going to build around. They gave him a huge contract. Hopefully, the new ownership is listening in Baltimore when it comes to Annalie Reshman and Gunnar. This is going to be the template. This guy's a stud. Hits for power, hits for average. Definitely, he's one of he's the building block that they're going to build around. Absolutely. So the Royals, they don't have a really good team, but they do have a star. Bobby Witt is like number 4 in terms of the best player there. Number 3, Francisco Lindor for the Mets. Mets kind of in the same boat as the Padres. How good are the Mets? Not sure. It feels like they took a step down a bit. But I tell you, this guy is fantastic. Definitely has all the tools. He's a guy, and you can see this like growing up in baseball. A lot of guys in baseball at the lower levels, we talk about minor league baseball, well, not even minor league baseball, like even at the lower levels, like high school and college and all that. Where do you see the best players? You see them at shortstop, you see them at catcher. You see that a lot of the time, other than pitcher. This guy, you could tell, like he's the best player all of his life. Definitely hits for power. Definitely he can play multiple positions. Definitely a guy. This was the bright spot for the Mets. I thought him and Alonso as far as average. Lindor missed some games. That's about it. Number 3, he's really, really good. Trey Turner, another one, like kind of tale of 2 seasons. Didn't really start out well in Philly last year. End of the year, the stats look just like Trey Turner. He's terrific. I think there's no question about how good this guy is. He was good when he was in Washington. He was good with the Dodgers. He's going to be good with Philly. He hits the ball, a power hitter. He'd be a good power hitter even at he's not a good power hitter for shortstop. He's a good power hitter for anywhere. Kind of reminds me of Cowardkin, the way he plays. Kind of like just a steady, consistent, kind of like steady and consistent, really gritty. And he really fits Philly the way he plays too. Some guys like don't fit there in Philly. He does. I think he's an absolute fit there in Philly. I think he's one of their best players. Trey Turner, one of the best in the league. Number 1, and I gotta say, as good as those other guys were, there's a pretty wide margin here. Corey Seager, number 1. If you saw the World Series, you're not questioning this. This guy's, I think he's definitely one of the guys. If you tell me not only is he the best shortstop, he's the MVP of the league, I'm not going to argue a whole lot. He's really good. Seager hits for power. I think people, though, he's kind of went under the radar with how good he's been. He's been really good for a while, but now Rangers are better. He's better. So good job for Corey Seager getting number 1 shortstop in the MLB 2024. Really good stuff. Seager is fantastic. I think a lot of those guys on the list are fantastic as far as it goes. Jackson Holliday is going to start probably for the Orioles this year. Not quite yet. Can't put a guy there, Orioles fans that hasn't played a game yet. Jackson, real quick with Jackson too. Heard they're going to play him at second. Did see an article with that. We're going to play him at second. Going to play him in left field a little bit, in the outfield. Why not? I don't see why not. You know what I mean? That you play him. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a shortstop though for the season. We will see. We got another segment here. So we got Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, Mike, new addition. One of my favorite groups from the old days there. So we're talking about new additions to the Orioles. So who is new on the Orioles? It's funny. Like we obviously had a big new addition. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of you already know about it there. But let's talk about all the new additions, all the players that we're kind of getting in this year. It's funny. We had the Burns trade last week, and I was like, well, should I even do a segment on new? Because not a lot has happened, et cetera. So it's funny. After I decided to do, like, we're going to talk about a lot of new players, right? Then we get the trade. So we definitely have to talk about some of the new players that are coming to the Orioles. So let's only talk about that, and let's talk about also what left. Okay, so we're talking about what's coming in. Let's give it a minute and talk about what went out. We're just talking about Bobby Witt. For the Royals, he's going to be playing next to Adam Frazier, who signed like $4.5 million to go to the Royals, play second base. Kyle Gibson signed very early in the offseason, no longer with the Orioles, went to the St. Louis Cardinals. Jack Flaherty, who they got from the Cardinals last year in a trade, signed a free agent deal with the Detroit Tigers. Shinner Fujinami signed with the Mets, about $3 million. Aaron Hicks signed with a minor league deal with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Okay, so those are pretty much your top 5 free agents that you had. They all let go. They all signed about 1-year deals with other teams. I don't think the Orioles tried real hard to get them, which is why they kind of signed most of them late. Gibson signed earlier, but I think he kind of knew that the Orioles were going to go in a different direction with that. So here's what's leaving. Here's what's coming in. Here are your new additions. Kay Povich. Pretty good in the minor leagues last year. Now, again, the rotation's a little bit more solidified, so I don't think you're going to see him right away. I think you'll definitely see him at some point this season. I think he was really one of the best pitchers in the minor league system now. So now with DL Hall gone, this is the now, and you got Grayson out in the majors. These are your top 2 guys. This is what your pitching prospects looks like. So I definitely think you'll see him at some point this year. Pretty sure he starts in Norfolk. Povich is a good all-around pitcher. Not the ridiculous flamethrower, but definitely a good all-around pitcher. Got to take his ERA down, though. But I don't think you'll see him right away, but you'll see him at some point this year. McDermott. Now, I did think he did have a shot at the rotation when it was DL Hall or Tyler Wells. Now that that's more solidified, he'll absolutely start the year in Norfolk. I think he'll probably be. I think at some point you'll see him, though, with the injury history that some of these guys have. Maybe see him as a spot starter. I don't think he spends the whole year. I definitely think he's in majors some point this year. My guess is after the break, a little bit before that, maybe you'll see him at some point. Chase McDermott. Definitely check him out. Pitcher. That's what this guy is, Chase McDermott. Kobe Mayo. Word on the streets is that the White Sox and the Dylan Cease trade were insisting on Kobe Mayo. I could have told him that wasn't going to happen. Kobe Mayo is absolutely going to be off limits. He's got a future with the Orioles. Only question with Kobe Mayo, is he going to stay at third base? I really think with his tall, lanky structure and as good a hitter as he is, they may not leave him over there at third base. They may move him to left field. They move him to first base. But you're going to see him this year. There's no question. No chance at all he stays in the minors all year long. I don't think it's going to be even like a September. You see him much more before that. I don't think he breaks camp with the Orioles, but definitely I think in the first half, you'll see Kobe Mayo. I definitely think if there are injuries in the infield, that's when you'll see him. If you see it at third base or first base on Mountcastle or Gunner or something like that, I definitely think you'll see Kobe Mayo. The moment we've all been waiting for, Jackson Holliday. I watched this dad for so many years. Matt Holliday was a tremendous hitter for so many years with St. Louis and the Cardinals. And now we get the unveiling. This is going to be your starting shortstop in 2024. I just mentioned that Jackson, they're going to put him at second a little bit. I think like this is kind of what you do with a lot of players. You don't like, this is kind of the way sports is a lot of ways in some places. You get a hard time getting guys D'Angelo Russell, not to veer too off, but D'Angelo Russell was asked by a reporter one time, what told he was a point guard. Well, no, I'm not a point guard. I play basketball on the court. That's what I do. And that's kind of what to spin it back. That's kind of what they're doing with Jackson Holiday. They're just moving him around. They're already indoctrinating that. I think for the most part, they'd be crazy not to play this guy at shortstop. He's not going to struggle. He's a tremendous hitter. He hit 300 plus at every level. He's definitely going to be very excited to see Jackson Holiday. Here's a name. There's a guy coming over from a good team, Sam Hilliard. Minor league deal. I think good chance to make the team. I think he's got a chance here. This is a guy who may unseat Ryan McKenna. Can play all outfield positions. He'll play well on defense. I think that's kind of what the role is. He's out of option as well, so that's important. So I don't think they're going to send him to Norfolk. I think he's going to play a lot in the outfield as well. You'll see him on Sunday, right? You'll see him as a backup as well. Interesting to see what happens with him along with Colton Cowser and Kerstad, which I didn't put because they've kind of already started in the majors, even though they're still rookies. Jonathan Hensley. Now, I think I got that wrong because this was a trade. I'm not sure he makes the team, but I definitely think he's got a shot. He throws super hard. Got some control issues, which is why the Royals let him go or were willing to trade him. But definitely can throw 100 miles an hour. No question about it. So the arm talent is absolutely there. Throws the ball super hard. Orioles have a good history, too, of reclamation progress with a lot of these guys. We're getting these guys to come on back and do better. So good job here. Orioles getting Jonathan Hensley here. I'm not sure he makes the team, but I definitely he's worth taking a look at. Got a shot at getting there. Now the good stuff. Craig Kimbrell. Kimbrell's going to be wearing 46. So he wore the 31 last year with the Phillies. He's wearing 46, which is the number he wore with the Braves in most of his career. I love the signing. I don't know what anybody else is talking about. I would say it's probably more than I would have paid for him, $13 million, but I'm not mad at it. This is kind of what I was thinking too. Like you're not, because you're not going to have Batista all year long, pretty much. Maybe he comes back in August, September, or something like that. You're going to need a closer this season. This guy throws hard, ridiculously hard. He used to throw over 100. He's still right around the 100-mile-an-hour mark. A little less consistent than he was. That's probably the only thing, though. Doesn't throw quite as hard. A scotch more inconsistent. But I think all this negative with Kimbrell is way overblown. He's still really good. He wasn't good in playoffs. I mean, that's for sure. But, for a guy, you're lucky to get a guy this good to go ahead and, fill in for Batista all year. And again, it's a one-year deal. It's not something that you're committed to long-term or something like that. You get to keep him in for 1 year. And I think as much as part of this, you keep Cano and you keep Perez in the middle innings, which I think is something that they wanted to do. And what an honor. Corbin Burns. So they traded away D.L. Hall. They traded away Joey Ortiz, and they traded away a draft pick, compensation pick that they got. And you get Corbin Burns. What was missing in the playoffs? What you didn't have? Why did you lose? You didn't have, I'm going to use the Max Scherzer term, the war daddy. You didn't have a leader. You didn't have an ace. You didn't have a guy who's been in the playoffs and won games, a former Cy Young winner. You got one now. This is the best pitcher the Orioles have had since the Moose was around. And he's wearing 39, his old number. We couldn't be more excited. This is the biggest Oriole acquisition we've ever had. I can't remember having an Oriole acquisition in the offseason with this much buzz. I can't remember. So he's your number one starter. I did a video last week about number one starter. This is it. This is the leader. This is your war daddy. Now, not to rain on the party too much. Interested to see what happens in the offseason. I don't know what type of contract he gets going for because he's going to get a lot of money. So it'll be interesting to see what that goes. But with new ownership, it's uncharted territory. We're still finding out what happens there with new ownership. All right. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Ravery Sports Podcast. We will see you on Sunday for the Super Bowl, 4 o'clock. Definitely check us out on YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitch. Like and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. If this content was as well, go ahead, not only like the video, share the video with other Ravens fans, Orioles fans, Terp fans. Thank you very much for joining us with the Ravery Sports Podcast. You have a great rest of your day.